What is going on, everybody? Welcome to my channel. I am Roxora, and I am a variety streamer, sort of on Twitch, and on my YouTube I like to do mostly MTG Arena content. I sometimes put some other stuff. But yeah, we're here for some MTG Arena news breaking just today. Um, I could have done a video on the ban or suspension announcement on July 21st, which was a few days ago. I wasn't able to make a video in time about it. And pretty much it's just brainstorm is suspended. I think everyone is fine with it. So yeah, I'm not really going to talk about that. We're going to talk about this really exciting exclusive article from IGN about the Historic Horizons edition to MTG Arena. So a little while back, we got like a spoiler of it of that Modern Horizons 1 and 2 cards and unique cards were going to be added to Historic. So this series of cards is called Jumpstart. It's a new version of Jumpstart. So Jumpstart was a set, that was added to Arena and also printed in paper, and added some cards to Historic, shook things up. And this is essentially another one of that, but this is much more cards, and presumably much more powerful cards. I mean, there were some fine cards in Jumpstart, but this is on a completely different scale. So yeah, 782 cards. That is a lot of cards, and they have this gallery of 9 cards, presumably because they got this this exclusive interview with people from Wizards of the Coast, and got to see some cool cards. So they talk about here that there's going to be 31 entirely new cards to Arena, and then I'm sorry, 700. Yeah, and then the other ones will be presumably ones from either cards that are already on Arena, which I'm not. I guess I'm not. Maybe they're just reprints, or cards from Modern Horizons and Modern Horizons 2, which came out this year. A few months ago. All right, so let's go ahead and take a look at the new cards here. So first up, we have Manor Guardian, which is 2 and a black for a 4/3 demon, and when it dies, each player seeks a non-land card with mana value 2 or less. So Seek is a new mechanic that is for digital only, that essentially looks at all the cards that meet a certain criteria in your deck and adds one of them to your hand without shuffling. So you don't search your deck, you don't look through your deck, yada, etc. It gets whatever the card you can get is. So in this case, any card that is a non-land card that is 2 mana or less, it randomly selects one of them and adds it to your hand. So as for the card itself seems kind of lackluster. It gives each player a card, so I kind of view this card as just when it dies, each player draws a card. Yes, the card is specific, and you could kind of tailor your deck to get more value out of this. It'd be one thing if this was you get a creature with mana value 2 or less, because then you could play this against control, and the control might not be able to get something out of it. So then there's some cases where this works, but this says non-land, so each player is pretty likely to get something out of it. I can't really think of any deck, maybe like Kahira or that deck or whatever is out. Not Kahira, Karuga, the companion card. But other than that, there's really no scenario where this card doesn't get something, give each player something. As for the mechanic itself, I do like that we have this kind of, if you've ever played any of the other digital card games like Hearthstone or Legends of Runeterra, this is a common occurrence in those games, and I like adding it here, specifically with the non-shuffling clause. Drawing a card or getting a specific or I guess a more constrained card from your deck without shuffling is valuable, especially if we see something later on that is more restrictive and you can kind of tailor your deck around. So for example, we have a lot of scrying in Magic, and putting cards in the bottom and things like that, and putting shuffling your deck and putting those cards back into your deck is theoretically less valuable because presumably you put those cards in the bottom because you didn't want to draw them. So being able to get cards that might not be on the top of your deck, might be somewhere deeper in your deck, without shuffling the bad cards that you put on bottom of your deck, could be interesting. And again, this card in particular is not great. The Seek doesn't really provide a lot of value here. Presumably, if we see a different card with a better, more constrained Seek, you can kind of almost maybe, tailor your deck and use it as pseudo tutor, not a tutor, but like almost a tutor, or tutor for a specific kind of card, then maybe this would have more value. All right, next up we have Davriel's Withering, which is 1 black for an instant, and it says target creature perpetually gets -1/-2. So perpetually is another digital only mechanic that essentially just means that it always gets affected by that. The spell resolves. The creature will get -1/-2 always. That means when it moves between zones, that means if it's returned back to the hand, dies, gets exiled, whatever. I really like these kinds of stat changes. Instead of having to deal with the counters, this is a great way. So there are cards that affect how many counters get put on things. So giving something -1/-1 is not always, or sorry, -1/-1 counter, excuse me, might have some liabilities on it. Whereas this, you can do it and Arena will remember it, so you don't have to remember it, and it'll just show it on the screen, or do it in game. I like that. This also kind of, I think, would be cool if like there are things that affect getting creatures back from the graveyard. So like let's say you have a 3-powered creature, but you have a card, for example, like Alesha, who smiles at death. Some people will know me for that card. Can only get creatures back with power 2 or less. So if you put this on a 3-drop creature, you could theoretically get that creature back with Alesha, I believe. I'm gonna look into that, but I'm pretty sure that's how it works. I'm pretty sure it doesn't care about the, it's not like there's some cards that care about the original maybe power of the card. Anyways, as for the power of the card itself, it's pretty lackluster. I would have actually much rather this give -2/-1. That would have made it much more useful of a combat trick. I guess this is actually, I guess, or maybe -2/-2. I don't know. It could go both ways. Never mind. Because -2/-1 would be more of a defensive card, I guess, and this is kind of using it as, I guess, aggressive card or shock essentially on a creature. So I guess it's fine. I don't know. I would have rather much just done the -2/-1, because if it's perpetual, then you constantly remove dull down the power. Yeah, I don't know. I could see it going both ways, but as either way, the power, the level of the card is pretty lackluster. But still, I like the perpetually, and I think we have another example of the card of a perpetually next. Yes, we do. We have a few, I think. So we got Lumbering Light Shield, which is 1 and a white for a 1/4 illusion. It says when Lumbering Light Shield enters the battlefield, target opponent reveals a non-land card at random from their hand. It perpetually gains. This spell costs 1 more to cast. So there's kind of 2, digital only things here. There's revealing a random card from your hand, which I guess isn't that hard in paper, but it's a lot easier on digital. So it enters. You choose a random card from their hand, and it essentially just costs 1 more to cast always. Oh, I guess no, they wouldn't. They would have to show. This is digital. I'm thinking back because it has to be a non-land. I was like, wait, what happens if it's a land? Yeah, it has to be a non-land card. So, if they have like 2 lands in hand and 2 spells, it's not going to have a chance of hitting the lands. It's only going to look at the 2 non-land cards in the hand. So I think this card's pretty cool. Again, especially if you hit a card that your opponent's going to want to cast over and over in the game. Think back to like Uro, or I don't know, cards that could be cast from the graveyard. Um, we got was it Demi Lich, right now, and things like that. So think there's this card. I don't know exactly what the card fits in. I also think that the 2-mana 1/4 body is eating. Yeah, yeah. I like this card. I like this card the more that I look at it. I'm interested in it certainly. All right, next up we have another perpetually card. We have Playcrafter's Familiar, which is 1 in a black for a 1/1 rat with Death Touch. And when it enters the battlefield, choose a creature card in your hand and perpetually gains Death Touch. So yeah, this again reminds me very much of some of the Legends of Runeterra cards that I've played with. Giving keywords to cards in your hand. And yeah, I think it's good. It's a 2-mana 1/1 with Death Touch that could give another creature in your hand Death Touch. So oh, I see some uses with this card. I was gonna say, like, if there's any pingers in Arena, I'm trying to think if there is. I can't think of any off the top of my head, but that's kind of cool if there is. I'll have to look into that. I'll maybe we'll do when this card comes out, we'll do some theory crafting with it. But that's still pretty cool. But just by itself, it's going to trade for 2 cards. It's going to theoretically, either get removed or it's going to block a creature and trade with it. And then the card in your hand that got Death Touch would also have Death Touch. And, just said has Death Touch twice. It would theoretically be able to come down and trade with something else. So kind of an upgraded Typhoid Rat. I think it's pretty good. 2 for 1 is always valued. So yeah, and I like the giving keywords aspect of Perpetually. I like that there's so much that they're doing with Perpetually so far. All right, next up we have a Doozy in Davril Soulbroker, which is 2 black for a Planeswalker that starts with 4 loyalty. Its +1 is until your next turn, whenever an opponent attacks you or a Planeswalker you control, they have to discard a card, but if they can't, they have to sacrifice an attacking creature. So this is really good if you're dwindling down your opponent's resources, or if everyone's top decking and you top deck this. If they don't have a lot of creatures, then it's going to be hard for them to remove this. Then we got the -2, which is accept one of Davriel's offers, then accept one of Davriel's conditions. Now you might be thinking, what does that mean? And I'm going to show you, this is the text, and here's what we got. So it is essentially, the offer is a beneficial effect, and the constraint is the or condition, excuse me, is the negative effect. So we have draw 3 cards. All right, starting off great. Conjure a Manor Guardian card into your hand. That was the first card we looked at. Not that great. Return 2 creatures from your graveyard to your hand. They perpetually gain +1/+1. Return a creature card with the highest mana value from among cards in your graveyard to the battlefield. Then there are various emblems. Creatures you control get +2/+0. Spells you cast cost, I believe it's 1 in a black less to cast. Let me check on that. I think this just means black. I'm not sure. Says you get an emblem with Davril. Planeswalkers you control have +2 draw a card. Whoa, that's cool. And you get an emblem whenever you draw a card, gain 2 life. Okay. And then we have the conditions, which are a bunch of the negative effects. You lose 6 life, exile 2 cards from your hand. If you can't, then your opponent draws cards equal to the difference. Sack 2 permanents. Creatures you don't control get bigger. Creatures you control get weaker. Spells you cast cost 1 more. You gotta see where this is going. It says whenever you draw a card, exile the top 2 cards of your library. Yikes. At the beginning of your upkeep, you lose 1 life for each creature you control. Okay, yeah. So that's essentially all of those effects. Oh boy. And so that's kind of the biggest like random of random effects. People have like related this to Urza from Unhinged or yeah, Unhinged I think it is. Or Unstable is the one. Unstable. You know, one of the joke sets, and you know, I gotta say it's not far off. You know, I think it's a little better because you're guaranteed to get a beneficial effect, and you're you know, along with that detrimental effect, and you know, there could be some variance in depending on how you build your deck, how heavily you're affected. So, for example, let's go to like you know, creatures you control get -1/-0. If you have no creatures in your deck, this doesn't do anything. And similar to like if you're playing against control and your opponent gets you know their creatures get +1/+1, they don't have creatures in their deck. So you know, while this card definitely has some variance in it, and can definitely have some hit or miss scenarios, um, depending on how you build your deck or what you're playing against, can be very good. And the other reason why I like this card so far is the -3, which is just target creature perpetually gets -3/-3. Can be a removal, can just, you know, make a creature smaller to make it easier to block. So it has a usage besides the crazy random effect. So I think this card's really cool. Very interesting design from a Planeswalker. You know, the +1 is not just draw a card. The -3 is a more interesting type of removal. So yeah, and this is kind of one of the only planeswalkers without a real game ending ultimate. Like the -2 is beneficial, but it's not game ending. It's just very impactful. So I find that very interesting. That you know most of the you know planeswalkers of this type have some -8, -7, or whatever ultimate, and this one does not. So I find that very interesting. All right, next up we have Subversive Acolyte, which is black for a 2/2 human, and you can pay 2 mana and 2 life to choose one only once. It says actually only once. Oh, I thought this was once per turn. Wow, I'm learning about the card of real time. So we have it becomes a human cleric. And gets +1/+2 and gains lifelink. So pay 2 mana, and then next turn you pay 2 more and 2 life, and it becomes a 3/4 lifelink. Okay. It's kind of fine. Can be done at instant speed, so you don't like have to do it. Then you could also use this as like a combat trick. And then the other one is it becomes like Phyrexian, and it gets +3/+3 and gains trample, and whenever it is dealt damage, sack that many permanents. So this is, yeah, people kind of relating this to Phyrexian Obliterator. It's not. It is actually worse because you have to play it on. You can play it on 2, and then you can respond to the ability, so they could shock it in response, and then you wouldn't get any value. But the other thing is that your opponent doesn't get penalized for dealing damage to it. Only you do. It says whenever it's dealt damage, you sack permanents, not the controller. You. So yeah. As for what this deck does and what does it go in, I'm not exactly sure. Obviously, like dealing 5 damage on turn 3 is pretty good, but it has a lot of drawbacks. So yeah, I'm not sure. This is a toughie, but it is definitely an interesting card, and I like that we have this kind of permanent transformation that is again transition. This could theoretically be in paper. This is not something that needs necessarily to be digital exclusive. Like, you know, you could just designate, you know, think of like dragons and cons cards from Dragons of Tarkir. You know, like this is just a modal card. But I do think it's easier, obviously, in digital, so I don't mind this. All right. And then next up we have I think we have 2 cards from Modern Horizons or from older cards that are being put into Historic. So first up we have Ranger Captain of Eos. We had Ranger of Eos, and now we have Ranger Captain of Eos. This is 1 white for 3/3 human soldier. Enters, you may search your library for a creature card with converted mana cost 1 or less, put it into your hand, shuffle. And then it has the ability to sack itself to prevent your opponents from casting non-creature spells this turn. So we've already seen Ranger of Eos do stuff with Death Shadow and with other cards in Historic, and this is almost kind of an upgrade. You know, Ranger of Eos was kind of expensive, and this is 1 mana cheaper, and has the ability to kind of be a nuisance for control decks or decks trying to cast non-creature spells. So this is definitely going to see play in Historic. Pretty exciting that a card like this. I think this is a perfect example of a Modern Horizons card that can see play in Historic, or that is safe to put in Historic. This is not going to break anything. It's just going to be nice, solid, and very fun to play with. And I'm really looking forward to it. All right, next up we have Return to the Ranks, which is X white for a sorcerer with Convoke. If you don't know what Convoke is essentially you can tap untapped creatures you control to pay for the spell. They can either pay for the colored mana by being that color. So if you have a white creature on your side of the board, you can tap it to pay for the white mana, or if it's a creature that's not that color, or if it's colorless creature or whatever, you can also tap it to pay for the X or the generic mana in this case. And what does the card do? It says return X creature cards with mana value 2 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. So yeah, this is kind of a good aggro card, or a good weenie creatures card. There are already a decent amount of good cheap white creatures in the format. We have sorry, I'm blanking on the name. Luminarch Aspirant. We have Luminarch Aspirant. We have stuff like Seasoned Hollowblade. We have stuff like Selfless Savior and things like that in the format. Just in those are actually more standard cards. Let me look at Historic. We got things like Danto Vanguard. We have things Luminarch Aspirant, as I said. Scavenging Ooze, Thalia, Guardian of Thraben. So yeah, pretty decent card in that regard of the things that it could theoretically get back. Now, as to whether this is actually going to be put in decks, I don't really know. My guess is not really. I don't think that a lot of the decks that want, Luminarch Aspirants are going to put Return to the Ranks in their deck, maybe as a one of, maybe. But I think I think in general, they're just not. Because typically they have Collected Company, which is just, I think in my view, a better effect to rebuild, so forth. Why try and get cards from your graveyard? We can get cards from your deck. I don't know, but it is an interesting card, and yeah, we'll see what it does. And then last but not least, the most spicy one. Oops. Last but not least, the most spicy one, probably. They might be freaking out here because you're seeing Tropical Island over here and Ponder over here. I did a double take as well. When I saw this, I was like, why are they putting Ponder in the game? They just banned Brainstorm. And also, what's this? Read this text up here. It says available only with the Conjure mechanic. So we haven't seen a card that actually has Conjure yet, but they have told us that the Conjure mechanic is the kind of like the classic, again, digital card game mechanic of generating cards from outside of the game. So you've already seen getting cards from your sideboard with cards like Learn, mechanics like Learn. And now with Conjure, we're going to be able to randomly get a choice of 3 cards from outside of the game to add to our hand. Not a copy, not a token, actual physical card. I guess not physical. And they can be from anywhere in Magic. So they can be, you know, banned cards. Maybe I hope not banned cards. I hope not. But cards that are not originally legal in the format. I guess they can be banned cards if they're cards that aren't normally legal in the format. So in this case, it shows us three. I guess these two are reserved list cards. I believe this is a reserved list. I assume that's why they put it here. Otherwise, why are you putting this card in front of me? And you can even get the original dual lands like Tropical Island, Volcanic Island, presumably, and then Ponder, you know, which is the best cantrip in the game. Or you could get a dud like Stormfront Pegasus. So it's going to be 3 random cards. So I should have mentioned that's the same thing for Davriel's stuff. You don't get one of these, you get a choice of 3. You get a choice of 3 of these and a choice of 3 of these. That's, I assume, is how it's going to be for all of these guys. So anyways, you know, this is another you know, very heavy digital mechanic. It's not like anything we haven't seen in something like Hearthstone or Legends of Runeterra. The question is, you know, what is this going to do? What do I think about these type of things being in Magic Arena, specifically historic? So the other big takeaway here is that these are going to be only historic legal. They are not going to affect standard in any way, shape, or form. But the article talks about you know, wanting to you know, expand you know, the limits of Magic, and give people the opportunity to, you know, play with the digital only cards and have that unique digital experience. So so the other thing that I'm okay with, so in terms of balance or gameplay wise, I'm totally okay with these digital cards, specifically because there are 31 of them and they are limited. They've talked about don't know where it is in here. Right. So this is talking about like leaning into, you know, the advantages of digital, and you know, seeing what they can do. So right now, these few mechanics are going to be very limited. Again, it's 31 of the 782 cards, 82 or 81. I forget the exact number, something like that. And they're, as you can see, they're very limited in power level and in you know, in your faceness, if that's a thing. That's a phrase you can say. So I appreciate that Wizards is recognizing that these have a potential to work the game in a certain amount, certain capacity, and are trying to their very best to limit it. So, you know, like Seek is not an incredibly, you know, volatile mechanic. The perpetually is throw that out the window. Like, throw that out the window of your concerns. That mechanic is totally fine. I actually really like that. The only thing that would potentially be worrisome is this conjure mechanic. We haven't seen any cards from it again, but my view is that, again, right now these things are fine, especially if they are done on a very limited scale. And it doesn't have me worried about, you know, again, like these are, I like that they're keeping things separate. One of the things that, you know, kind of upset me was the card like Crystalline Giant. Hold on, let me bring that up. So Crystalline Giant, you know, was oops. The Crystalline Giant was a card that I was a little upset with, not because it is particularly broken, but because it is incredibly hard to do in paper. So far, we have only played with this card on Arena. I've never, you know, tried to play with the card in paper, obviously because of the pandemic. right? So like you'd have to put, all of these different counters on the card and remember, and then have to roll a dice or have some way to randomly generate it. This is just miserable. So this is exactly what I don't want happening in Paper. And I like that they are trying to keep things separate or isolated, right? So Historic is an arena only format. No one's going to want to play Historic in Paper anytime soon. Or ever at this point, I think. um, I'm totally fine with them putting historic cards and saying, standard is still going to exist untouched by these digital changes. Standard will still be the introduction to Magic. Right, so new players will come in, they'll play standard, they'll play, whatever, and get into the game, and then once they get into historic, both new and experienced players can appreciate and have fun with the new mechanics. So yeah, that I think that about covers it for this video. We'll have to see. I'm gonna if new cards come out, or if new news is given, then I will do more videos, or if they happen during streams, then we'll check those out then. But yeah, let me know what you guys think. I'm really excited. I've been enjoying Historic. I'm going to do some more Historic videos now that Brainstorm has been suspended. Not banned, suspended. Yeah, let me know what you guys think in the comments. Are you guys excited about this? Do you guys hate this? Or somewhere in between? I know I'm going to get a lot of, volatile or, volatile reactions. So, yeah. Again, if you guys enjoy this video, leave a like, comment, and subscribe, all of that stuff. And if you guys want to watch me live, whether it's Arena, Kingdom Hearts, or something else, you guys can check me out at twitch.tv/Roxora098. Link for that is going to be down in the comments as well, or in the description as well. All right, guys, hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you guys next time.